Hi guys, in this video we're going to add some knee and hip controls. So once again we're going to start off with a circle curve, which I'm just going to drag out on the grid here. And what I want to do is use the move tool and snap the points and snap that to my knee joint, just there. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch off snap to points, and I'm just going to move this out a little bit in front of the knee. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate that and then just punch in a minus value in front of translate X. That's going to move it across to the right leg. Now this is assuming that your rig is symmetrical. Okay, if you're not sure, instead of just punching in a minus value, actually use snap to points and snap it to the other knee and then just drag it out. Alternatively, what you can do is if this is snapped onto this knee, you can duplicate it, so edit duplicate or Control D. You can snap it onto the other knee and then shift select both of them and pull both of them out like this, so they're both the same distance. Okay, then what I want to do is just rotate these around. So I'm just holding down the J key, and you can just rotate them so that they're sort of 90 degrees to the knees like that. And then what we want to do is freeze transformations on both of those. So we'll go modify freeze transformations, and you can delete the history as well, edit, delete by type history. And then what we'll do is just give them names. So this one, I'm going to call this one left knee control. And then the other one obviously is going to be right knee control. Like that. Okay, so then what we want to do is basically connect the ankle rotate plane IK solver, which is this one, onto this knee, and obviously do the same for the right leg. Now to do that, what we're going to do is use what's called a constraint. And what that's going to do is basically turn this handle into a controller for the IK handle. And primarily what it's going to do is control the twist value just here. And that's what the constraint is going to do. Okay. And that's a pole vector, I should say. You can see that reference just here. All right, so with a constraint, what we need to do is always select the controlling object first. So the controller gets selected first, and then the object it's going to control gets selected second, like that. Then what we're going to do is pop over to the animation tab. Actually, what we need to do is go to the animation menu set just here, animation, and we want to pop up to constrain and then select pole vector. And we just click that, and you should see a green line shoot from the area where the actual pole vector indicator is, the rotation plane just here. Okay, that's going to be the hip, and you'll see a line connect down to the knee. And we just do the same thing over here for the right leg. So you can just select the control, then the IK, and then just hit G on the keyboard, and that will repeat the pole vector constraint tool. Now if I take that knee control and use the move tool and move it side to side, I should now see the knee twist. Like that. Okay. Now, if I move the foot, you'll notice that the knee control will stay where it is. And that means depending on where I place the foot, the knee will flip backwards. Okay, so what we need to do is make sure that the knee control always stays with the foot control. So what I'm going to do is select the knee control. I'm going to shift select the foot control, and I'm going to parent them. So I'll go edit, parent. Like that. And you should see all the values for the knee control will remain at 0, and all the values for the foot control will also be at 0. So I'll do the same thing for the other one. So select the knee control on the right, shift select the foot and hit P, like that. So now when I move my foot control, the knee control will go with it and always remain in front of the leg. That way the leg won't kind of flip backwards. Now you might have to kind of adjust the position of these controls if they're not far out enough in front of the character. depending on how far the knee bends, you might find that the knee still flips. Okay, now you can see there, if I pull the foot back to here, the knee will flip, but as I rotate this forwards, it will fix itself. And what's causing that is the center position of the knee control handle here. When it passes the IK line just here, if it goes behind that line, it'll flip like that. As soon as it passes in front, it'll be okay again. So you just need to be careful when you're animating that that's not occurring. And as I said, you can reposition the knee control if you need to. All right, so that's the knee control. Let's take a look at a hip control. Now, a hip control is not absolutely necessary, so you can technically skip this if you need to. But sometimes on my rigs, I'll put in a little hip control. So once again, I'm going to use a circle curve. So I'll just create that from the circle curve tab. Usually I'll make these about the same size as the hip control, so pretty small. And I'm going to snap this up to the hip. And then I'll move it out to the side like this. And normally I'll keep these relatively close to the body. I don't want them kind of way out here. I'll keep them pretty close, and that's going to be dependent on your geometry. So, you know, I could probably put it there and it would be okay. And I'm going to rotate this one around this way. So let's grab the J key and just rotate this around like this. And what I'm going to do here is, in this case, I'm going to duplicate it. So Command D. And then I definitely will put in a minus sign in front of the translate, and that's going to give me a duplicate over here. I'll select both of them, and once again, freeze the transformations, and I'm going to delete the history on both of them. Okay, so this is where basically I now need to make sure that the pivot point for this handle is right on that hip joint. So I'm going to use the D key again to edit my pivot. I'm going to hold down the V key to snap to points, and I'm going to drag that across to the middle of the joint. I'll do the same thing over here. I'll shift that pivot point to the right hip joint. Okay. Then what I want to do is do a point constraint from this hip joint onto this controller. And that way, anywhere I move the controller, the hip joint will go with it. Now don't forget, the rotation on the joint is being controlled by the IK in the leg. So I can't override that by making this control adjust the rotation. I can only do the actual hip position. Okay, so what I'm going to do is select the hip control. I'm going to shift select the joint, and then I'm going to come up to constrain, and I'm going to use a point constraint. But what I want to do is go into the options and double check some settings. The first thing I need to do is make sure I've got maintain offset, and that's just so that just in case you don't have the pivot point positioned exactly, the joint will still remain where it is when I connect these two together. The other thing I want to do is just make sure I'm doing constrain all axes, and I'll hit apply. I'll then do the same thing on the other side. I'll select the controller, shift select the joint, and hit apply. So now what this gives me is a control handle which I can use to reposition the hip if I need to. So this is more of a fine-tuning controller rather than it being something that I use all the time for animation. So this is just, you know, if my character ends up in a pose where it's maybe breaking the rig a little bit, it's not quite kind of mechanically correct or mechanically accurate to what we'd expect in the real world, I can use this controller to just tweak the positions of the hip just to make sure that the model's sort of looking a little bit more normal or more believable in its position. Okay, so that's a hip control. Now the hip controls do not get connected to the feet controls. Okay, they need to remain separate. They are going to get connected to the pelvis control when we add that in. Okay, so I'm going to leave this video here. In the next one, we will pretty much do a similar setup for the arms. We're going to be using more pole vectors on the elbows. So we'll make some elbow connect controls, and they're going to work basically the same as the knee controls. We can do some shoulder controls as well, which work just the same way as the hip controls. And we'll do the wrist controls, which will actually control the rotation of the hands, at the wrist joint, and also control the IK for the arms, including the little expression we're going to use for controlling the forearm twist on our humanoid characters. So we'll see you then.